Next up, we're going to have a look at some gating and also some subtractive EQ. Now, there is an amazing Neutron 3 gate plugin. Now, remember with Neutron 3, we can actually access the individual modules as their own plugins, which is really, really useful. And I find that when I'm mixing, I like to do my kind of problem-solving stuff at the beginning. So this may even be something that's done before we do the mix balance. But as I said, I like to do the mix balance this way using Neutron 3 right at the top of the chain. But it's a good idea to attack those kind of problems in terms of things like gating and mouth clicks and basically just things you don't want in there from the start to be removed from the beginning. So let's have a look at the kick. I've just loaded the gate plugin on here. So you can hear we've got a lot of bleed coming in on the kick there. Now, you can actually leave this in sometimes. It can add to the kind of bigness and fatness of the drum kit, but let's say we want to take it out. So if we bring up our threshold here, you can see this is the kicks that are getting represented by these big peaks here. Now our orange curve here is showing us the gain reduction. So if we were to bring this down, you'll hear that this background bleed from the rest of the drums will now be able to come through. So we can even lose that snare. So you can see here the snares here. Let's try it without. And let's hear it in the context of the track. Okay, I think in some ways it sounds a little bit cleaner, just ever so slightly, but maybe it loses something ever so slightly as well. But something else we can do is using this ratio control, we can actually determine how much we want to reduce things that fall below the threshold. So we can choose to still have some of it in there, but have it reduced a lot in volume, and that's going to be somewhere in between the two. Okay, we'll leave that there. So when we're using gates, it doesn't always have to be for kind of problem solving. It could also be for creative functions as well. Before we do the next bit, I'm actually going to set the BPM correctly. So I'm going to set it to 90. That means we can actually work, loop things in time within the project. And we have this drum loop. Say hello. Which plays at the beginning. I'm going to just select that and route it to its own channel, its own bus. And on this bus, I'm going to apply another gate plugin. Now I like to do this applying of plugins in rows when they're all the same effect, because it allows you to actually bypass things so you can make sure that the processing you're adding is working across the whole mix. Now again, we can use the gate plugin, but this time to actually kind of remove some of the sustain from the sound. Kind of tighten it up a little bit. Now using this release here, we can determine how long the tail is going to be of the sounds, or how long it's going to take for the gate to close once the sound falls below the threshold. Now this drum loop's got this kind of annoying clicky thing to it as well. If you listen again, and I think this gate's going to help get rid of that. Let's try it in the context of the track.
Say hello. You're walking along, girl, you got no grace. Sometimes I don't even think you know where you wanna go. But someday we could cross each other's path. Someday, say hello. You're walking along, girl, you got no grace.
I'm going to leave that in. I think it allows a little bit more space for the more sustaining sounds to come through. And as I said, I find a little clicky sound a little bit annoying. So I'm going to leave that gate in, just kind of taking away some of the sustain of that drum loop. There's one final thing I want to look at with the gate, and that's the snare, which has a lot of sustain at around the 200 hertz area. So I'm just going to make a couple of nodes here. So we're in kind of multi-channel gating territory. And I'll solo it, and I'm going to learn the different areas of interest within the sound. Okay, now it's this kind of area here, so I don't actually want to extend up that high, but it's set the low frequency for me, which is good. Now what I'm also going to do is set the detection filter. I'm going to switch that on. So it's going to respond to this area as well, which means it's not going to respond to some of the higher frequencies. Okay, so I'm going to focus in on this area here, and let's bring up our threshold. So you can hear how it's cutting down on the sustain of that body of the snare, that kind of 200 hertz area. So let's just make it a little bit more subtle. Now, if we wanted to, we could get rid of that bleed full stop. Let's try it in the context of the track. Now, I think we need that upper frequency bleed because it just helps to fill out the drums a bit, but maybe let's just try and reduce it slightly. Okay, let's just make that a little bit more subtle. Okay, I think that works. It just helps to slightly reduce that sustain in the low mids, which is going to get in the way of the vocal a little bit. It's just a little bit too much. I think maybe the snare is also a little bit loud. So I'll just turn it down slightly. And this is the beauty of having set the initial balance, which sounds really good. We can now use our faders to make slight adjustments as you would do normally. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we've done some gating on this mix. In the next video, we're going to have a look at some subtractive EQ. Thanks for watching.